Look, nobody joins the Galactic Space Station Harmony thinking they're going to witness a diplomatic incident involving fruit. But here we are. The station floated somewhere in the Epsilon sector, a massive rotating wheel of metal and good intentions where 273 different species tried very hard not to accidentally kill each other. And trust me, the accidentally part was doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. The cafeteria was the crown jewel of this interspecies experiment. One side served methane slurries for the cliques. Another corner had raw protein chunks for the Drachnor. And somewhere in the middle, looking absolutely miserable, was the salad bar that approximately nobody touched because apparently vegetables are a universal disappointment. Jake Morrison was currently elbow-deep in the beverage dispenser, trying to figure out why it kept spitting out something that looked like orange soda but smelled like old socks. He was the station's maintenance guy, which was a fancy way of saying he fixed things that broke when species designed for 7 different atmospheric pressures all shared the same infrastructure. The problem is the liquid nitrogen coupling, Jake muttered to himself, pulling out a wrench that had seen better decades. Why does everything on this station run on liquid nitrogen? We're in space. It's already cold. He was about average height for a human, which made him weirdly tall compared to half the station, and comically short compared to the other half. His jumpsuit had seen so many repairs that it was basically a quilt at this point. His hair stuck up in directions that suggested he'd woken up late, which he had, because the artificial day-night cycle on this station made absolutely no sense for human circadian rhythms. "Excuse me, human Jake." The voice came from behind him, dripping with the kind of anxiety usually reserved for bomb disposal experts. "Are you aware that your posture suggests spinal damage? Should I alert medical?" Jake didn't even turn around. He knew that voice. "Morning, Doc. My spine is fine. This is just how humans stand when they're working on things that are annoying." Doctor. Kelvin Thross was a Zenthari, which meant he looked like someone had taken a praying mantis, made it walk upright, gave it 4 arms, and then told it some really bad news. His species had spent the last 10,000 years perfecting medicine, which unfortunately meant they'd also spent 10,000 years developing galaxy-class anxiety about anything health-related. "I find that difficult to believe," Dr. Thross said, his mandibles clicking nervously. "I have 17 medical journals here that suggest, Doc, I promise you, humans are supposed to bend like this. We're surprisingly flexible. It's one of our things." Across the cafeteria, Commander Vix was having what she would later describe as a perfectly normal morning. Thank you very much. Right up until it wasn't. She was an Avarian, a species that looked like someone had given a heron sentience, business degrees, and chronic stress. Her feathers were the color of storm clouds, and they were currently ruffled in about 15 different directions because she'd already dealt with 3 interspecies disputes before breakfast. "No, Ambassador Crete. You cannot challenge the Vorton delegation to a duel just because they sat at your favorite table," she was saying into her comm unit, rubbing what passed for her temples. "Because we banned dueling after the incident with the sporks. Yes, I remember you won. Everyone remembers. We're still finding scorch marks." Jake finally got the dispenser working and decided he'd earned a break. He wiped his hands on his jumpsuit, which didn't actually clean them but made him feel productive, and wandered over to the food stations. Here's the thing about space station cafeterias. They try really hard to be inclusive. Maybe too hard. There was a whole section labeled Exotic Imports, Cultural Exchange Program, that was basically a warning label disguised as enthusiasm. Jake had learned to avoid most of it. Last week he'd tried something called a pleasure polyp and spent 6 hours experiencing colors he was pretty sure didn't exist. But today, sitting there in a little climate-controlled case, was a basket of fruit that actually looked normal. Well, normal-ish. They were about the size of apples, bright purple with these little yellow spots, and they smelled sweet. Kind of like if a mango and a strawberry had a baby and that baby was really into extreme sports. The label next to them was in about 40 different languages. The human English translation said, "Corvaxian delicacy, mindful consumption recommended." Jake figured mindful consumption meant don't eat 17 of them, and grabbed one. The skin felt smooth, almost waxy. He took a bite, and oh man, it was delicious. Like, genuinely fantastic. Spicy, but in a good way. Sweet but not too sweet. A little tangy. If someone had told him to describe the perfect fruit, this would be pretty close. He was contemplating grabbing a second one when he noticed Dr. Thross had gone very, very still. Like, horror movie still. Statue still. That's weird, Jake thought. Usually he doesn't freeze up until after he tells me why something I'm doing is medically inadvisable. "Doctor," Thross's eyes, All 6 of them were fixed on the purple fruit in Jake's hand. Then the doctor started screaming. Now, when a Xanthari doctor screams, it's not like a human scream. It's more like someone stabbing a synthesizer while also running it through a garbage disposal. Every species in the cafeteria stopped what they were doing. A Drachnor dropped its protein chunk. 2 clicks actually separated from their methane cloud in surprise, which was apparently very rude in their culture. "Death apple!" Dr. Thross shrieked, all 4 of his arms flailing in different directions. "Human Jake has consumed a Corvaxian death apple!" Jake looked at the fruit in his hand, then at Dr. Thross, then back at the fruit. "Pretty sure the label said delicacy, Doc." "It is a delicacy, because only 3 species in the galaxy can eat it and survive." Dr. Thross was now running in a small circle, which Jake had learned was the Xanthari equivalent of a panic attack. "And humans are not one of them." Commander Vix's feathers went from ruffled to full-on explosion mode. She dropped her datapad. "He ate what?" "Corvaxian death apple, ma'am." "Doctor!" Thross had stopped running in circles and was now sprinting toward the cafeteria exit. "I need to prepare the antidote immediately. He has approximately 8 minutes before the neurotoxins reach his cerebral cortex." 8 minutes? Commander Vix's voice went up about 3 octaves. "We can't have the first human fatality on this station. Do you know what that will do to our safety rating? Do you know how much paperwork that is?" "Oh gods, the paperwork." Jake took another bite of the death apple because, honestly, all this screaming was making him hungry, and also because human spite is a powerful motivator when someone tells you you're not supposed to do something. "I'm feeling fine, actually," he called out. But nobody was listening. The cafeteria had erupted into chaos. The Drachnor were backing away slowly, which was impressive because they weighed about 400 pounds each and moved like sentient boulders. The Clicks had reformed their methane cloud and were hovering near the ceiling, which was their version of watching drama unfold from a safe distance. A group of Pixith, who looked like angry volleyballs with too many eyes, were taking bets on whether Jake would make it. 10 credits says he's dead in 5 minutes. One of them chittered. 15 says he explodes. Another one countered. "Can everyone stop betting on my death, please?" Jake said, but they ignored him. Dr. Thross had made it to the cafeteria intercom and slammed his hand on the emergency broadcast button. "Code Violet. I repeat, Code Violet in Cafeteria 7. Human has ingested Class A restricted biological hazard. Medical teams to Cafeteria 7 immediately." "This is not a drill." Alarms started blaring. Not the normal alarms that meant something minor like an airlock malfunction or a waste recycling issue. No, these were the alarms that meant someone was probably going to die in a really exciting way that would require incident reports. Red lights flashed. Bulkheads started automatically sealing, which seemed excessive. Somewhere in the distance, Jake could hear the station's automated voice saying, "Please remain calm. Medical emergency in progress. Please remain calm." The irony of a robot voice telling everyone to stay calm while sounding absolutely terrified was not lost on him. Commander Vix was now on 3 different comm channels simultaneously, which was impressive for someone who only had one mouth. "Yes, Ambassador Crete, we have a situation." "No, it's not your fault this time." "Yes, I'm aware that's a refreshing change. Can I call you back? We have a human eating lethal fruit." Down in the medical bay, which was about 4 levels below the cafeteria, Dr. Thross burst through the doors like someone being chased by his own mortality. His 3 medical assistants looked up from their various tasks. "Emergency antidote protocol," he screamed. "Corvaxian death apple ingestion. Human victim." His lead assistant, a blob-like Murathi named Glorp, jiggled in surprise. "But doctor, the universal antidote takes 6 minutes to prepare, and you said he only has 8 minutes before." "I know what I said, Glorp." "Which is why we have 2 minutes of margin for error, and I'm screaming." "Doctor." Thross was already pulling out vials and syringes, and what looked like a small industrial mixer. "Get me the neural stabilizer, the cellular regeneration compound, and someone contact his next of kin." "He doesn't have next of kin on the station," Glorp said, quietly. "Then contact Earth. They need to know we killed their representative." "Doc, we didn't kill him. He ate the not helping, Glorp." Back in the cafeteria, Jake had finished his first death apple and was eyeing the basket again. Commander Vix noticed. Her pupils, which were the size of dinner plates anyway, somehow got even wider. "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't you dare." Jake looked at her, looked at the basket, looked back at her. "They're really good, though," he said. "Human Jake, if you value your life, step away from the death apples." I mean, if I'm already dying according to Doc Thross, what's one more going to do? Jake's hand hovered over the basket. He was mostly doing this to be annoying at this point, which was very on-brand for humans. Commander Vix made a sound like a tea kettle achieving sentience and choosing violence. The medical team came crashing through the cafeteria doors with a hover gurney, about 15 different pieces of emergency equipment, and the kind of determination usually reserved for action movie heroes. Dr. Thross was in the lead, holding a syringe filled with something that glowed ominously. "Human Jake!" he screamed. "Remain calm! We are here to save your life!" Jake, who had just picked up his second death apple, turned around slowly. "Oh, hey, Doc," he said, taking a bite. "What's up?" "Doctor." Thross looked at the death apple in Jake's hand, then at Jake's face, which showed absolutely no signs of distress, pain, or imminent death, then at the basket, where Jake had clearly already eaten one. Then Dr. Thross did what any rational medical professional would do when confronted with a patient who should be dead, but was instead having a snack. He fainted. The syringe clattered to the floor. The medical team stood there in shock. Commander Vix caught Dr. Thross before he hit the ground, which was impressive because he weighed about as much as a filing cabinet full of anxiety. And Jake, oblivious to the fact that he'd just caused a station-wide medical emergency, took another bite of his death apple and said, "You know what? These are even better than the first one. I think they're growing on me." Commander Vix was now holding an unconscious Zenthari doctor in her wing arms, while trying to maintain some semblance of authority. This was not covered in the station commander training manual. She was pretty sure of that. She'd read the manual cover to cover twice, and there was definitely no chapter titled, "What to do when your maintenance, human eats poison, and asks for seconds." "Someone wake up Dr. Thross." She snapped at the medical team, who were still frozen in various poses of shock and horror. "And someone please explain to me why the human is still alive." Glorp, the blob-like medical assistant, jiggled forward cautiously. He had a scanner in one of his pseudopods, and was waving it at Jake like someone checking for radiation with a Geiger counter. The scanner beeped, then beeped again, then made a sound like a confused electronic shrug. "Commander," Glorp said slowly, "according to this, human Jake is not dying." "I could have told you that," Jake said through a mouthful of death apple. "I feel great, actually. Better than great. I woke up with heartburn this morning and it's completely gone. This fruit is like medicinal or something." Every single alien in the cafeteria took a collective step backward. Even the ones who didn't have legs figured out how to move away from Jake. "Did he just say," Commander Vix whispered, "that the death apple cured his ailment?" "The neurotoxins should have paralyzed his respiratory system by now," Glorp said, staring at his scanner like it had personally betrayed him. "The acidic compounds should be dissolving his stomach lining. The secondary poison should be causing catastrophic organ failure. But instead, his readings are actually better than his baseline from last week's health check." Jake burped. It smelled like spicy fruit. Everyone moved back another step. One of the Pixith who'd been taking bets rolled over. All 15 of his eyes focused on Jake. "Is the human glowing? Or is that just me?" Jake looked down at his hands. "I don't think I'm glowing. Am I glowing?" "You are definitely glowing," Commander Vix said. "Why are you glowing?" "Probably the bioluminescent compounds in the death apple reacting with his digestive enzymes," Glorp said weakly, "which should be killing him, by the way. The glowing should be coming from his corpse, not his very much alive body." "Okay, that's metal as hell," Jake said, admiring the faint purple shimmer on his skin. "Do I get to keep this? Because this would be great for working in the dark maintenance shafts." Dr. Thross groaned and started coming back to consciousness. Someone had given him what looked like smelling salts, but was probably some advanced Zenthari medical thing. His eyes fluttered open, saw Jake still standing there eating fruit, and immediately tried to faint again. "Oh no, you don't," Commander Vix said, shaking him slightly. "You're the medical expert here, Doctor. You need to explain what's happening. The human should be dead, Doctor," Thross mumbled. "All of my training says the human should be very, extremely, exceptionally dead." "Well, I'm not," Jake said helpfully. "Want some? There's like a whole basket here." He held out the death apple. The sound that came from Dr. Thross was somewhere between a whimper and a mechanical failure. "Get that away from me. Each one of those contains enough concentrated toxins to kill a Draknor war beast. They're called death apples because consuming them causes death. It's right there in the name." "To be fair," Jake said, "Earth had something called a death cap mushroom. And people kept eating those too. So maybe we're just not great with warning labels. People ate the death mushrooms? Commander Vix felt a headache coming on. She didn't even know Avarians could get headaches, but apparently humans were teaching her all sorts of new things about her own biology. On purpose? I mean, sometimes by accident. But yeah, sometimes on purpose. There was this whole thing with a Roman emperor. Jake paused. Actually, several Roman emperors. We had a whole period where poisoning people with mushrooms was super popular. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. Even the background hum of the station's life support seemed quieter, as if the machinery itself was trying to process what it was hearing. Your species, one of the Drachnors said slowly, actively poisoned each other? For entertainment? Not entertainment. Politics. Though I guess for some people that's the same thing. Jake took another bite. These are way better than those mushrooms, though. Those apparently tasted terrible. These are actually delicious. Dr. Thross had managed to get back on his feet, though he was leaning heavily on Glorp for support. This is impossible. I need to run tests. Extensive tests. I need to understand how your biology is processing what should be lethal toxins. Can it wait until after my lunch break? Because I'm still technically on break for another? Jake checked his wrist comm. 14 minutes. You want to finish your break. Doctor. Thross's voice cracked. You've consumed 2 death apples. 2! The amount of poison in your system right now could theoretically kill everyone in this cafeteria. Jake looked around the cafeteria. Looked at all the aliens backing away from him like he was radioactive. Looked down at his still glowing hands. Am I contagious? No! Maybe? I don't know. Doctor? Thross clutched his head with all 4 hands. I don't know anything anymore. My entire medical education is meaningless. 17 years of study gone. Bit dramatic, Doc. The human is lecturing me about being dramatic while actively digesting enough poison to sterilize a small moon. Commander Vix's comm unit was lighting up like a festival display. Every department head on the Sumper station wanted to know what was happening. The ambassadors were demanding explanations. Someone from maintenance was asking if Jake was going to finish his shift because the waste recycler on Deck 9 was making weird noises again. Everyone shut up, she screeched, and the cafeteria went silent. Human Jake, put down the death apple. Jake looked at the half-eaten fruit in his hand. But I'm not done with it. I don't care. Put it down. Now. With visible reluctance, Jake set the death apple on the table. Commander Vix felt a small surge of relief, right up until Jake reached into his jumpsuit pocket and pulled out another one. When did you... Commander Vix couldn't even finish the sentence. Grabbed a couple for later, Jake said cheerfully. Figured I'd have one during my afternoon break. Maybe make a smoothie out of the other one. Doctor. Thross made a sound like a deflating balloon. A smoothie. He wants to make a smoothie out of concentrated death, with maybe some of that purple yogurt stuff from the clicks section. Would that be weird? Jake looked genuinely curious, like he was asking about normal food combinations and not biological weapons mixing. The clicks yogurt is also toxic to humans, Glorp said quietly. Oh, Jake considered this. Would it be toxic in a bad way, or toxic in a spicy way? Because I'm starting to think there's a difference. That was the moment Commander Vix realized something terrifying. The human wasn't just surviving the death apples. The human had developed a taste for them. The human was treating lethal alien toxins like a new flavor profile to explore. The human was going to give everyone on this station a collective nervous breakdown, and he was going to do it while asking if anyone had any nice beverage recommendations to go with his poison fruit. I need a drink, Commander Vix muttered. The human alcohol? One of her assistants asked. Absolutely not. That stuff is classified as a chemical weapon in 7 systems. She paused. Although at this point, what's the worst that could happen? From across the cafeteria, Jake waved. Hey, Commander, these things have seeds. Do you think the station has a greenhouse? I could grow more. Commander Vix decided that yes, she definitely needed that drink. Dr. Thross had been a medical professional for 23 years. He had treated 14 different species for everything from common colds to exotic space parasites. He had performed surgery in 0 gravity. He had once successfully reattached all 6 of a Keltorian's limbs after what the incident report politely called an aggressive disagreement about sports. But nothing, absolutely nothing in his extensive career had prepared him for a human asking if he could cultivate a garden of concentrated death. No, Doctor, Thross said flatly. Absolutely not. Under no circumstances are we allowing you to grow death apples on this station. But they're so good, though, Jake said, looking genuinely disappointed. And think about how much money the station would save on importing them. We don't import them. Nobody imports them. The only reason we have them is because Ambassador Korvax brought them as a cultural gift and explicitly warned us that they were for display purposes only. Commander Vix was pacing now, her talons clicking against the metal floor. The label says mindful consumption recommended, because the polite translation of the actual Korvaxian warning is, "These will kill you. Don't be an idiot." Jake squinted at the basket. That's a pretty loose translation. It's a diplomatic translation. Dr. Thross had pulled up a holographic display and was frantically scrolling through medical databases. His hands were shaking slightly, which made the holograms wobble. I need to understand this. I need to understand this. Glorp, bring me the human dietary database. All of it. Glorp jiggled over with a datapad. Doctor, the human dietary database is extensive. It might take a while. I don't care if it takes all day. Start from the beginning. What followed was possibly the most disturbing presentation anyone in that cafeteria had ever witnessed. And remember, this was a space station that once hosted a Draknor poetry slam that resulted in 3 fires and a minor diplomatic incident. Okay, Dr. Thross said, his voice taking on the manic quality of someone whose worldview was actively crumbling. Let's start with capsaicin. Humans deliberately seek out and consume capsaicin, a compound that literally evolved to prevent mammals from eating plants. The plants developed a chemical weapon. The humans decided it was a condiment. It makes food taste better, Jake said with a shrug. It's a neurotoxin. It triggers pain receptors. It causes a stress response. And humans, Dr. Thross gestured wildly at Jake. Humans cultivated stronger versions of it. They had competitions to see who could eat the most. One of the Pixith rolled closer. Wait, the humans voluntarily inflict pain on themselves for recreation? Oh, you have no idea, Dr. Thross muttered, scrolling further. Here, alcohol, ethanol, a literal cellular poison that humans consume socially. In large quantities. They call it going out for drinks, like it's a normal activity and not systematic self-poisoning. To be fair, Jake said, we usually regret it the next morning. And yet you keep doing it. Commander Vix had stopped pacing and was now staring at the holographic display with growing horror. What's that one? The brown liquid? Coffee, Dr. Thross said grimly. Concentrated caffeine, a pesticide. Humans drink it every morning to wake up. Some of them consume multiple doses per day. They become chemically dependent on it and experience withdrawal symptoms without it. I feel personally attacked right now, Jake muttered. Good. You should. Dr. Thross was scrolling faster now, and his voice was getting higher. Carbonated beverages that dissolve organic matter. Processed foods filled with preservatives that would kill most species. Artificial sweeteners that are literally poison to half the galaxy. Energy drinks that contain enough stimulants to kill a Zenthari. And don't even get me started on the human obsession with fermented foods. What's wrong with fermented foods? Jake asked. You're eating controlled rot. You take food, let it decay in a specific way, and then consume the decay. Yeah, and it's delicious. Have you never had cheese? Dr. Thross made a sound like a computer trying to process something its programming insisted was impossible. The human digestive system is not a digestive system. It's a chemical weapons processing facility that occasionally extracts nutrients as a side effect. Glorp was reading through the database with what would have been wide eyes if Marathi had eyes. Doctor, it says here that humans evolved eating spoiled meat when fresh meat wasn't available. They developed stronger stomach acid to handle it. Of course they did, Dr. Thross said weakly. Why wouldn't they? And it says they deliberately age certain meats for consumption. For weeks, sometimes months. Stop talking, Glorp. And there's a whole section here about something called hot sauce competitions, where humans, Glorp, I swear to the medical oath. Stop talking. Commander Vix was reading over their shoulders now, her feathers flattening in what was definitely the Avarian equivalent of existential dread. It says here that humans regularly consume plants from the nightshade family. Nightshade, the family of plants that includes deadly nightshade. Tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplants. Jake listed off. All nightshades. All delicious. The name has deadly in it. Yeah, but not all of them are deadly. Just some of them. You've got to know which ones. Jake paused. Though sometimes people get that wrong and there are incidents. But mostly it's fine. Dr. Thross had moved past panic into some sort of transcendent state of medical horror. Your species. Your entire species. Evolved on a death world where you had to develop the ability to eat poison just to survive. I mean, Earth isn't that bad, Jake said. Bit of a fixer-upper, sure. The weather's unpredictable, and sometimes the ground shakes, and there are animals that can kill you, and plants that can kill you, and insects that can kill you, and microorganisms that can kill you, and the water can kill you if you're not careful. And, he paused. Okay, I'm hearing it now. One of the Dragnor had moved closer to look at the database. His rocky face somehow managed to convey confusion. It says here that humans have a saying about things that make them stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yep, that's us, Jake said cheerfully. But that's not how biology works. Doctor, Thross protested. Things that don't kill you should make you cautious. They should make you avoid those things in the future. They shouldn't make you stronger. Well, Doc, I don't know what to tell you. We've been eating questionable stuff for thousands of years, and we turned out fine. Fine? You think this is fine? Doctor, Thross gestured at Jake, who was still faintly glowing purple. You're eating death apples like they're candy. You wanted to make a smoothie out of them. You're talking about growing more. Jake looked down at the half-eaten death apple still sitting on the table. Then he looked at Dr. Thross. Then, with the kind of deliberate defiance that only humans can really pull off, he picked it up and took another bite. The sound of Doctor. Thross's soul leaving his body was barely audible over Commander Vix's groan of defeat. The death apple isn't killing him, Glorp said quietly, checking his scanner again. It's actually improving his metabolic function. His cellular regeneration is up 14%. His neural activity is enhanced. The toxins that should be destroying his organs are instead being processed like nutrients. Like vitamins, Jake added. It's like taking vitamins, but tastier. Vitamins don't try to murder you. Maybe your vitamins don't. Commander Vix had her face buried in her wing arms. How? She said, her voice muffled. How did humanity even survive long enough to develop space travel? Spite, mostly, Jake said, and a really high tolerance for bad decisions. Dr. Thross sat down heavily on the floor. His forearms hung limply at his sides. His mandibles drooped. I need to update every medical protocol on this station. Every single one. Humans aren't patients. They're walking biohazard containers that somehow achieved sentience. That's kind of rude, Doc. It's a medical assessment. Commander Vix had finally composed herself enough to stand up straight, though her feathers were still doing their best impression of someone who'd stuck their wing in an electrical socket. She tapped her comm unit with a talon that shook slightly. Attention all station personnel. This is Commander Vix. The medical emergency in Cafeteria 7 has been downgraded from Code Violet to Code. I don't know. Code the human is fine, but we're all having a crisis. Resume normal operations. From around the cafeteria, other aliens who'd been watching the drama unfold started cautiously returning to their meals. Though notably, everyone was giving Jake's table a much wider berth than before. It was like he had an invisible force field of nope surrounding him. Ambassador Crete, the Dragnor who'd been trying to challenge people to duels earlier, lumbered over. His massive rocky body moved with surprising gentleness as he leaned down to examine Jake. Human, I have witnessed Dragnor warriors consume poison in ritual trials of strength. Many die. Those who survive are celebrated as heroes. That's nice, Jake said, not sure where this was going. You consumed the poison because you thought it was a snack. Yeah, pretty much. Ambassador Crete was silent for a moment. Then he started laughing, a deep rumbling sound like an avalanche with a sense of humor. I like this human. He faces death with the casual indifference of someone waiting for a data upload. This is the energy of a true warrior. I'm really not a warrior. I just fix stuff when it breaks. You fix stuff while glowing with absorbed toxins. Even better. Ambassador Crete slapped Jake on the shoulder with what was probably meant to be a friendly gesture, but nearly knocked him off his chair. You must join us for the next Dragnor feast. We have many foods that other species find challenging. Are they trying to kill me, or just really spicy? Yes. Doctor. Thross, still sitting on the floor like someone contemplating their life choices, looked up at Commander Vix. We need to call a station-wide meeting. Every species representative needs to hear this. If humans can casually consume Class A toxins, we need to completely revise our safety protocols. Agreed, Commander Vix said. She looked at Jake. Human Jake, you're coming with us to the council chamber. And bring one of those death apples, for demonstration purposes. Can I bring a couple, in case I get hungry? That sentence just took 5 years off my lifespan. 20 minutes later, the council chamber was packed. Every ambassador, department head, and medical officer on the station had crammed themselves in. The room looked like someone had combined a zoo, a science fiction convention, and a really awkward family reunion. Jake stood at the front, still faintly glowing purple, holding a death apple like it was show and tell day at the universe's weirdest school. Commander Vix cleared her throat. Thank you all for coming on short notice. We have a situation. Human Jake has consumed multiple Corvaxian death apples and survived. The room erupted. Questions flew from every direction in about 40 different languages and communication methods. One of the cliques actually separated into 3 smaller methane clouds. In surprise, which apparently was their version of a jaw drop, Ambassador Corvax, a tall crystalline being who looked like someone had made a person out of fancy glassware, stood up slowly. The human consumed my death apples, the ones I brought as a cultural display, the ones with the warning label. The label said mindful consumption, Jake offered. That's because the actual translation is these will liquefy your internal organs. We tried to be polite about it. Bit of a communication failure there. Dr. Thross stepped forward with his datapad, looking like someone about to present evidence at a trial where the laws of biology were the defendant. What we've discovered is that humans have a completely unprecedented ability to process toxins. Not just survive them, process them, sometimes beneficially. He pulled up the holographic display again, and the human dietary history appeared in all its horrifying glory. A collective gasp went through the chamber. Well, those species that could gasp. Some just made distressed noises appropriate to their biology. This is impossible, said Ambassador Ural, a delicate butterfly-like creature whose species lived on a diet of pure filtered nectar. No species could evolve to consume such things. And yet, Doctor, Thross said grimly, pointing at Jake, Exhibit A. I feel like I should be offended that I'm being called Exhibit A, Jake muttered. A Pixith named Orbix rolled forward. Several of his eyes focused on Jake while the others scanned the data. I have a question. How many humans are there? On the station? Just me. No. In total. In your entire species. Jake thought about it. Like, 8 billion? Give or take? The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurs when an entire room full of different species all simultaneously realizes the same terrible thing. 8 billion, Orbix repeated slowly. 8 billion creatures with the ability to consume toxins that would kill most known species. When you say it like that, it sounds scary. It is scary. This came from Ambassador Prella, a timid rabbit-like Vexen who'd been hiding behind her chair. We've been treating humans like a normal diplomatic species. We've been giving them access to our stations, our planets. What if they're invasive? We're not invasive, Jake protested. We're actually pretty friendly once you get to know us. You literally weaponized decay and called it cheese. Okay, but cheese is amazing. Commander Vix held up a wing for silence. Let's not panic. Yes, humans have unusual dietary capabilities, but human Jake has been on this station for 6 months, and this is the first incident. Because this is the first time something actually dangerous was left where I could eat it, Jake pointed out. Usually the dangerous stuff is clearly labeled and locked up. These were just sitting out in the open, mixed in with normal fruit. Ambassador Corvax's crystalline face somehow managed to look sheepish. I may have underestimated the human curiosity factor. On Corvax, if something is called a death apple, people know not to eat it. The name is clear. Yeah. But on Earth we have stuff called death cap mushrooms and destroying angel mushrooms, and people still eat them sometimes, Jake said. Sometimes on purpose. There was this whole thing with a Roman emperor. He mentioned the Roman emperor thing earlier, Dr. Thross interrupted. Apparently humans have a historical precedent for political assassination via mushroom. Via mushroom? Ambassador Prella looked like she might faint. It was a different time, Jake said defensively. We're much more civilized now. Mostly. Mostly? Commander Vix could feel another headache coming on. Okay, let's focus. Dr. Thross, what are the practical implications here? Do we need to change our medical protocols? Dr. Thross pulled up another display, this one showing a long list of substances. I've compiled a list of everything on this station. That's toxic to at least one species, but potentially harmless to humans. It's extensive. The cleaning supplies alone could kill 17 different species, but would probably just give a human mild indigestion. The spicy kind, or the bad kind? Jake asked. There's a difference? Yeah, there's definitely a difference. Spicy indigestion is when you eat too much hot sauce. Bad indigestion is when you eat gas station sushi. Very different experiences. Dr. Thross looked at Commander Vix. I need a vacation. Denied. We need you here. She turned to the assembled ambassadors. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're moving all Class A toxins to secure storage. Second, we're adding additional warning labels. In human English, very clear labels. What should they say? Asked one of her assistants. Jake raised his hand. Maybe this will actually kill you. Not in the fun, spicy way. Seriously, don't eat this? That's surprisingly clear, Commander Vix admitted. Write that down. Third, she continued, we're implementing a new protocol. Before any human-accessible area receives new food items, they must be cleared by medical. No exceptions. Ambassador Korvax nodded his crystalline head. I apologize for the oversight. I should have been more careful with my cultural display. It's fine, Jake said. I mean, I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. These things are great for my acid reflux. The death apples cured a medical condition? Dr. Thross looked like he might faint again. Thanks for watching. Faint. The death apples cured him down. Yeah, I haven't felt this good in weeks. Whatever's in these things, it's working for me. Commander Vix made a note on her datapad. Adding to the list, humans may experience beneficial effects from consuming toxins. Medical staff should be prepared for paradoxical reactions. This is the worst timeline, Dr. Thross muttered. The meeting wrapped up with what Commander Vix would later describe in her official report as adequate damage control and only minor psychological trauma today. Medical staff. Dr. Thross was sent to the station's counseling services, where a very patient Marathi therapist named Bloop spent an hour listening to him rant about how humans had invalidated his entire understanding of toxicology. Bloop prescribed him 2 weeks of meditation and strongly suggested he avoid the cafeteria. Commander Vix stood in front of the exotic imports section, watching as maintenance workers installed a new display case. This one had 3 separate locks, a biometric scanner, and a warning label in 73 languages. The human English version read, "Deadly to humans." Yes, really. No, seriously. Don't even think about it. Think that'll work? Asked her assistant. Absolutely not, Commander Vix said. But at least we tried. The remaining death apples from Ambassador Korvax's basket had been relocated to a secure xenobiology lab, where they would be studied extensively and kept far away from curious humans. All except for 3. Those 3 had mysteriously disappeared. Jake was back at his workstation, finishing up the repairs on the beverage dispenser. The purple glow had faded from his skin after about an hour, which was mildly disappointing because it had been really useful for finding dropped screws in dark corners. His comm unit beeped. It was a message from Commander Vix. New station regulation. Humans are hereby banned from the exotic imports section. This is for everyone else's mental health. Also, if you have any remaining death apples, please report them to medical immediately. Jake looked at the small cooling unit under his workbench, where 3 death apples sat next to his lunch. He typed back, "What death apples?" Jake. I don't know what you're talking about, Commander. Must be a typo. I can see you on the security cameras. Jake looked up at the camera in the corner and waved. Then he typed, "These are for personal consumption only. I'm not sharing them with anyone. They're perfectly safe for me." There was a visual, long pause. Then, "If you die, I'm putting 8 poison fruit despite extensive warnings on your incident report. Deal." Jake finished his repairs, packed up his tools, and grabbed one of the death apples for his afternoon break. As he walked through the corridors, he noticed aliens actively moving out of his way. Word had spread fast. The human who ate death apples and lived was now station legend. He passed Ambassador Crete, who gave him an approving nod. Warrior spirit! He passed a group of Pixith, who immediately stopped their conversation and rolled away quickly. He passed Dr. Thross, who took one look at Jake, saw the death apple in his hand, made a sound like a broken sensor, and walked directly into a wall. You okay, Doc? Jake called out. Leave me alone. I'm having a moment. By the time Jake made it back to his quarters, there were 17 new messages on his comm unit. 3 were from his family on Earth, asking if the rumors about him glowing purple were true. 5 were from various ambassadors requesting he stay away from their cultural food displays. 2 were from the Draknor delegation inviting him to their next feast. And 7 were from Dr. Thross, all of them variations on please stop eating things. Jake sat down at his small desk and pulled up his personal log. He took a bite of the death apple, savoring the spicy sweet flavor that apparently contained enough toxins to sterilize a small moon, and started typing. Station log, day 183. Discovered a new fruit today. It's called a death apple. Everyone freaked out. Turns out it's toxic to basically everyone except me. Caused a station-wide panic, 3 medical emergencies, and 1 existential crisis. Also, I'm pretty sure I'm banned from the imported foods section now. He took another bite. The fruit is delicious, though. Thinking about making pie this weekend? Wonder if anyone would want some. Probably not. Their loss. He paused, then added, note to self. Check if the station greenhouse can support Corvaxian flora. For science. And also because these things are expensive and I'm not paid enough to import them. His comm unit beeped again. Commander Vix. I heard that thought. Don't even think about it. How did you? I've been commanding this station for 3 years. I know when someone's planning something stupid. Jake grinned and took another bite of his death apple. Somewhere in the medical bay, an alarm went off as Dr. Thross's stress monitors hit critical levels. Somewhere in the council chamber, Commander Vix added, install sensors to detect death apple cultivation attempts to her to-do list. And somewhere in the Draknor quarters, Ambassador Crete was planning a feast that would probably result in another incident report. But Jake didn't know any of that yet. He just sat in his quarters, eating his poison fruit, glowing slightly purple again, and thinking that space station life was turning out to be pretty interesting after all. His comm unit beeped one final time. It was from the station's social committee. Potluck next month. Please don't bring anything that could be classified as a weapon. Jake looked at the death apples in his cooling unit and smiled. No promises, he typed back. And somewhere, in the medical bay, Dr. Thross began searching for new job postings on quieter, human-free stations.